Show me the data. Data!
Jerry! Does that make you feel good just to say that? Say it with me one time, Jerry.
Show you the data.
No, you can do better than that, Jerry. I want you to say it with you with me here, brother.
I got Dr. Oz on the other line. I bet he can say it.
Yeah. No. Show you the data.
No, not show you. Show me the data.
Show me the data.
Yeah. Louder.
Show me the data.
That's it, brother, but you got to yell.
Show me the data.
I need to feel you, Jerry.
Show me the data.
Jerry, you better yell.
Show me the data. Show me the data.
I love people having their data.
I love people having their data. Show me the data. I love data.
Yes, indeed. Show me the data rings loud and true, especially when the data is so insightful. My job today is to show you the data, or at least the highlights of data collected from some 300 plus studies of Australian pharmacies, a good industry cross-section, and to look into and share with you what it tells us in terms of the how-to of forward pharmacy. And in so doing, I am merely the mouthpiece of this data. I will share with you no opinion, no judgment of my own. For the first time, we have a truly great pool of data which we can interrogate and prosecute in terms of the current level of industry service standards and insights into successful forward pharmacy. So how do we collect this data? Many of you sitting in the audience will already know this because you've had a next level auditor come into your pharmacy. For those who haven't, our auditors perch strategically at the dispensary where they can watch one health customer, script or OTC, after another and listen to the conversations going on at the service counters. They are keying in very specific data into some software that you could broadly group under two topics: customer engagement effectiveness and script processing efficiency. And that data gets channeled through to form a very standardised report which gets handed back to the owner and provides information that benchmarks that pharmacy's performance across 36 metrics and provides a roadmap for what needs to change and why in terms of improving the forward pharmacy model. But we know that many pharmacists struggle with the how. And so progressively, as the data has built up over the years, we've ramped up the analytics and the correlations to try to derive data-driven success factors. So like any great piece of research, we needed to form a hypothesis in which we could align our analytics and correlations. So initially we dipped into that pool of studies and plucked out the so-called leading lights. Pharmacy of the Year finalists and winners, iconic stores like Nick Logan's Pharmacist Advice, and arguably lesser lights who still shone through in the data due to their high adjunctive therapy and companion add-on performance. And we used this to start to formulate the hypothesis. Now, it's useful at this point to just stop and consider the terms of reference of the model and what we measure and how. You can see there a little list of the inclusions, and you can see as you cast your eye top to bottom that those factors become more and more those characteristics that are within the control of the staff in the dispensary team. Now, of course, forward pharmacy success has many, many factors, and there are a number that are outside our remit that we don't measure. And again, here is another list of the classic examples. And you will notice, again, casting your eye top to bottom, that those factors are largely outside of the control of the people in the dispensary team. So fair to say, the hypothesis, the analytics, and any of the inferences coming out of the data are very much wrapped around the people, processes and practices involved with forward pharmacy. As the hypothesis started to emerge, we noticed a really strange correlation to Maslow's hierarchy. Anyone remember Maslow's hierarchy? Few hands. Quick 30-second refresher. Abraham Maslow, 1943, American psychologist, published his seminal piece, Maslow's Hierarchy, Maslow's Pyramid. And he described the highest level, the highest order of human pursuit and aspiration as self-actualisation. The richness of the true meaning of life and reaching one's inner potential. The model also tells us that there are a number of stages, lower order stages, that we need to move through on our way towards self-actualisation. Starting off with the most basic of physiological needs like breathing, food, water, etc. And the other tenet that Maslow taught us is that in order to move from whatever stage you're at the moment, you need to achieve a prerequisite level of mastery in order to then move to the next level. And so again, we saw striking similarities with Maslow's model as the hypothesis for effective forward pharmacy started to emerge from the leading light pharmacies. And so at the baseline level, team size and mix. Here I'm talking about the resourcing level employed to serve script in, script out OTC and man the dispensary functions behind that. And in terms of mix, I'm talking of the proportion of that resourcing level that is actually pharmacist. The next level, with team size and mix forming the foundation, the next level becomes really helpful now, and that is the pharmacy service structures. So here I'm talking counter configuration, service specialisation, workflow, traffic flow, click in now. My model deliberately changes colour now because I'm connoting the factors that are now of higher staff control. So the hypothesis that emerged tells us that with adequate team size and mix and reasonable, at least, forward pharmacy service structures, then the team can focus on optimising processing efficiency, and the hypothesis tells us that that frees up time for the staff to increase customer engagement. So with the time taken to produce a script being decreased, then the hypothesis tells us we've got the confidence to ask Flo and Eddie to stay in the store with us while we're processing their script, instead of asking them if they're going to the Coles and Woolies. And with the focus on keeping the customers in the store, then the focus also ramps up on rewarding them for doing that by engaging them. The hypothesis then goes on to say, with the culture of customer engagement and in-store retention, better relocate our white coats to the service counters. And that then has another flow-on effect in terms of further increasing customer engagement. And now with white coats doing most of the customer engagement, the model, the hypothesis then says that we're in a position now to convert the customer engagement into rich proactive counsel. And that rich proactive counsel feeds through to the offer of a complete solution via a consultative consultation, which then actually means for the pharmacy and its profitability, improved add-on performance. So here we are, at the self-actualisation pinnacle of the pharmacy model. So this type of conversation, this complete solution conversation, is the embodiment of the wow customer experience and profitability in turn for the pharmacist, according to the emerging hypothesis. But again,
Show me the data!
let's go back to the data. What about the 300 studies data? What is that saying in terms of the accuracy and the reliability of this hypothesis model derived from the leading lights? Turns out that team size and mix does have a positive association with processing efficiency, but the correlation is weak and doesn't reach statistical significance. In fact, if we dive into that part of the data a little bit richer, with all the hue and cry that we hear at the moment about cutting heads, cutting wages, cutting costs, it's useful to interrogate the data and ask it the question, when have I cut too hard? You can see from this graph, I've represented full-time equivalent as I defined it before, ratioed against 100,000 script items produced, and you can see on the vertical axis average time to process a script. The gradient of the dotted line here represents the weak correlation I alluded to before, and you can see a real tipping point here between 5 and 4. The data is suggesting to us if we cut below 5 full-time equivalent staff to man script in, script out OTC and the dispensary behind, we're just not going to be competitive from a processing efficiency point of view. What about team size and engagement duration? Flat line, no correlation at all. So we can summarise this level of the pyramid by saying that there is a suggestion, a faint suggestion, that team size and mix correlates with processing efficiency, but no correlation between that and customer engagement. If we turn back to the data and ask it the question about forward pharmacy or pharmacy service structures, and we think about a continuum, a dichotomy of Rafferty's rules mayhem, all the way through the other end of the spectrum, beautiful clean lines, clear signage, beautiful counter configuration, service specialisation, all supporting good workflow, traffic flow for an effective forward pharmacy model. Does this have any correlation? It's a very similar pattern to team size and mix. There is a weak correlation with processing efficiency and doesn't reach statistical significance, and no correlation again with customer engagement. So taking another quick deep dive into the data when it comes to processing efficiency, to ask the data the question, are there any learnings we can pick up on terms of the hands-on and the how-to of the mechanical part of the processing? If you consider that average processing duration I graphed before as being made up of the actual hands-on working time from the staff member, we call that black space. And then the other part of the processing time is the time in between interruptions, waiting for a staff member to actually do some black space work. Turns out that the white space has a greater correlation to overall processing efficiency than the black. So the moral of the story here is, as the script is inducted from script in and comes over the back, as soon as it's picked up over the back, handle it once, straight through processing. The white space is like white sugar in your diet. It's poison. Eradicate it. It kills your processing efficiency. And the prize, if you can get the processing efficiency right, the prize is there's a very strong correlation to in-store retention. But does processing efficiency correlate with customer engagement? Again, no correlation. And this goes against the hypothesis from the leading lights. Similarly, in-store retention. Despite what the hypothesis says, no correlation with relocated white coats. And in fact, in-store retention actually has a faint suggestion of a negative correlation to customer engagement. So we have a real conundrum here. In honour of Maslow's theory, the notion being one must achieve prerequisite mastery at one level to go to the next, we've now gone through a number of levels where no behaviour, no characteristic has a correlation to customer engagement. Yet we can see it's a critical part of the model that repeats at several levels. So it's only at this level now that for the first time we see a behavioural correlation. Relocating white coats has a positive correlation with customer engagement duration, albeit it's a weak correlation. However, customer engagement, regardless of role type, has a very strong correlation to conversion to proactive counsel. And relocating white coats has a moderately strong correlation to proactive counsel. just like the hypothesis tells us, and in fact, just like the conventional wisdom that I've been hearing ever since I came into this industry. That being the old war cry, get the techs out the back, get the pharmacists out the front, get them nose to nose, toe to toe, engaging with customers, and surely happy days will be there for all concerned. And so, these correlations here tend to support that. But what about the add-on performance manifestation of proactive counsel? Does customer engagement correlate to add-on performance? No correlation at all. Does relocated white coats correlate to add-on performance? No correlation at all. Does proactive counsel correlate with add-on performance? No correlation at all. So what's going on here? How do we explain this? So let me try and wrap up now and summarise and give you a plausible explanation. If I go back and wrap up the correlations I've shared with you, those that are weak, those with no correlation, those with strong correlation, and try to distill my final message into a recipe of ingredients for your successful forward pharmacy model, the data is telling us resize and remix for improving your processing efficiency advantage, not for customer engagement. Set your physical structures and your workflow direction, again, for further enhancing your processing efficiency, not for customer engagement. The data is suggesting that's not going to deliver that. When it comes to processing efficiency, one direction, one handle for optimum efficiency, not stop, start, stop, start. And when it comes to customer engagement, it seems that the data is telling us that the key link here is the relocation of white coats to the service counters. And that also flows through to the connection with conversion of engagement to rich proactive counsel. But now my recipe falls flat. Here is the great conundrum. These pointy-end behaviours, relocating white coats, customer engagement, proactive counsel, are not correlating to add-on performance. The data is suggesting to us that there is a gap in skills and confidence of our staff to convert a proactive counsel into an engaging and compelling complete solution conversation with customers where they want to embrace the recommendations and agree to the add-ons going into the basket as adjunctive therapy. So therefore, my final success ingredient is in fact not based on a correlation, but rather the absence of one. As an industry, we must train and upskill our people to have the confidence and competence to convert proactive counsel to a compelling, complete solution. What stop-go risk management speak is not good enough. Proactive counsel without a recommendation is not good enough. We need to extend what our customers know, challenge what they think they know, teach them what they don't know. And right now, I can't think of a better condition to focus your pursuit on this than pain. And on that note, I'm going to hand over to Joyce.